and go to our guest who joins us from the roads there in England. He's on the road. Piers Richard Corbyn, meteorologist, astrophysicist, consultant, and owner of Weather Action. And he's hailed by CNN, Fox, BBC as the only guy who can predict with over 90% accuracy, some say 86% accuracy, a year out what's going to happen. They got 55 operating to supply power and a bunch of other research facilities, 52 light water, 55 overall. Mr. Corbyn, again, what is your accuracy a year out? I forget the exact number. And give us your view on ABC and others saying that did supermoon cause 8.9 earthquake in Japan? What is a supermoon, sir?
Right. Well, our accuracy rate is 85% for extreme events forecasted many months ahead, and that's based on a combination of solar and lunar effects. A supermoon is when the moon is closest to the Earth and there's also it's so full on new. But basically, that situation gives you the strongest tidal effect. Now, the idea that the supermoon helps trigger earthquakes is absolutely correct. We agree with that, and we know there is a lunar signal in earthquake data. But we also know that to actually trigger an earthquake, it seems very helpful, you might say, if there is also major activity on the sun just preceding the moment where there will be some lunar effects in terms of tides.
And by the way, Doctor...
there was a big solar flare yesterday.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
It hit yesterday. The effect of it hit yesterday.
Sir, I interrupted you because there was a little bit of time delay. Repeat that. You're saying if there's lunar and solar together, that there's evidence, and that
That's right.
We did have both yesterday. Please repeat it in detail. Yes,
what you need to get a big earthquake is a combination of a lunar and solar effects. You need big events on the sun, and then those events affect the solar wind, and you need the solar wind coronal mass ejections to be directed to Earth. And yesterday, Earth was hit by a coronal mass ejection. And at the same time, it helps if you've also got extra lunar tidal effects on the Earth crust. And that's what we've got right now, so or near that. So that gives us what we're seeing.
Well, sir, as a leading meteorologist and astrophysicist who specializes in lunar and solar study, there's a big debate raging right now with Discover Magazine. ABC says, did supermoon cause 8.9? They're reporting this is the biggest supermoon since 1992. Is that correct from your research? And some people...
Yeah, well, it probably is correct, but you actually get quite a lot of lunar effects. I mean, the moon is closest to the Earth once every month. So you've then got to have other things for the moon as well, as I said, a new moon or a full moon. So when they say the biggest for a long time, they're also talking about the plane of the moon's orbit and so forth, such as if it's near an eclipse. So I think the details of how big isn't that important, just as long as you've got a significant moon and an extra hit from the sun. Because the earthquakes are things which are waiting to happen all the time, and it needs a trigger. And if there's triggers above a certain level, then they will come, and the combination of lunar and solar effects will give them.
So the two magnify each other.
That's right. Definitely.
How does a solar coronal ejection, several, as you said, in the last week hitting, a big one hitting yesterday, how does the lunar radiation and winds affect the tectonic activities?
Right. Well, we don't understand the details of how it all works, but we do know that when you get a coronal mass ejection hitting Earth, that there is a lot of geomagnetic activity. That is, the magnetic field of the Earth goes a bit wild. Now, that is connected to the Earth deep down. So, changes in that does involve forces, and that could encourage or tip the balance, which allows a tectonic plate to move that little bit that it is trying to go anyway.
So all we know is that throughout history, there have been, even the ancients obviously knew this, they didn't know why, that the moon and the sun do tend to affect volcanoes and things like that. I mean, obviously, if the moon itself is what creates the tides coming in and out, then certainly the sun is going to have an effect. But the UN said about a year and a half ago at the Copenhagen summit, they said the sun has no effect on climate.
Well, they would. The trouble is the whole of science has been corrupted by these CO2 nonsense. But before wasting any more time on that, I would just like to say a very interesting thing about the solar effect is that the biggest storms and the biggest earthquakes tend to come, curiously, when the solar activity on average is low, that is in solar minima, especially the odd to even minima, like we're now moving into or in cycle 24, but that's up in the history. They happen in those periods when there is also, so that's kind of quiet, and then you've got extra big events within that time, and those are the events which seem to trigger earthquakes more. But when you've got more solar activity, you seem to get a lot of littler, smaller earthquakes, rather than single big ones, which seem to happen around the solar minima, especially the odd to even minima, which is all quite interesting and kind of understandable when you think about, shaking of rocks or shaking sugar out of a jar and so on, it'll stick and then come out in lumps, and except when you have lots of little wobbles, then it doesn't come out in lumps.
Well,
so
sir,
that type of analogy helps us understand it anyway.
Yes, sir. We're talking to meteorologist and astrophysicist Piers Richard Corbyn. You can check out his very important website at weatheraction.com. But, sir, I specifically brought up the UN because, as you know, with the earthquake in Haiti and some of the other earthquakes, Al Gore and others have come out, the UN has come out, and they have said that the earthquake is caused by global warming, when, from my research, but correct me if I'm wrong, there's really no evidence connecting CO2 in the a slow average to any type of big event. But we do have direct connections to solar and lunar events. So they're telling us the sun has no effect, so they can blame it all on humans and taxes.
Well, that's right. They are mad. They are fools. They are charlatans. They are liars. And if you want to know more, hop on our website where we put up a thing at weatheraction.com on this very point. It's labelled under comments from me, the most recent comment from me on weatheraction.com.
Absolutely. In closing, sir, and obviously you go over the science, you go over the math, 85% accuracy in your catastrophic predictions. I've seen the press report above 90 in some of the closer in predictions, not just a year out. The proof is in the pudding. In the last 2 years,
thank you very much.
No, it's just no brag, just facts, sir. I mean, you obviously know what you're talking about, but you say it's more of an art form, looking at the history and then projecting forward, almost a dead reckoning with the big record solar flare, the huge moon, the super moon. What does your gut tell you? I mean, does your gut tell you, doctor, that this was probably triggered or pushed over the edge by the super moon and the coronal mass ejection?
Yes, we would say that. We say this thing was caused by events on the sun, or rather a solar-lunar combination. And I put out a tweet to that effect with the link, and my tweet address is Piers_Corbyn, spelled Corbyn. So if anyone goes on there, they can get all the links straight away.
Well, sir, we'll follow you. Hopefully you'll follow us at twitter.com/real Alex Jones. We're just now getting on the Twitter bandwagon to reach folks because it's so effective. Well, sir, we'll talk to you again in the very near future. Anything else that you'd like to add?
No, that's fine. It's superb to come on your show.
Good to have you, Doctor.